Q&A. We'll take 3, 4. Okay, 1. Oh.
Thank you. I have 2 questions, one from Muad, one from Mohammed. Thank you for your presentations, all of you, by the way. The first one is for Muad, and according to your presentation, it seems that the PGD is somehow co-opted, as you use this term, if we can say that, and the only voice which is expressing somehow a dissident against the authoritarianism monarchy could be, for instance, the movement of justice and spirituality. And I was wondering, what do you think about that? What is the role of this movement? And if this movement is also having a role at the diasporic level, considering that is very challenging against the monarchy. So this is the question for you. And the question for Mohammed feels very sympathetic, because I was in Tunisia from 2015 and 2018 for my fieldwork, so it's very sad what is going on in these days. And I do agree with you with all the causes that paved the way to the autocratization. But as I was wondering if, in addition to the lack of economic support, the lack of institutions, such as the lack of a constitutional court, which is a major pitfall, if you were considering also the fact, for instance, that there were already since 2014 some securitization dynamics against, for instance, civil society actors. There was a huge breakdown of civil society in 2014. Many associations that I was interviewing were closed. So my question for you is, do you find any correlation between what was going on in 2014 onwards as a kind of path dependency that facilitated the autocratization process? Thank you.
I think we have 3 here, right?
Thank you. I had a question for Muad. My question is about, you talked about the king's religious authority, right, as the commander of the faithful, Amir al-Mu'mineen. I was wondering, so there's an alternative discourse coming from the Islamist groups especially, right, the 2 main ones, but is there any alternative religious discourse from the ulama or like the more official religious institutions in Morocco at all? You know, in Egypt, for instance, you have Al-Azhar, Sheikh Al-Taib, has a relatively autonomous voice when it comes to religious matters, particularly from the authoritarian government in Egypt. Thank you.
Question. No, that's you.
Yeah, I have a question for Muad as well, about Morocco. What does the presence of Israeli troops on Moroccan soil recently in joint military drills tell us about the resilience of authoritarianism in Morocco? I mean, obviously it tells us it's very resilient because they don't care about public opinion, but you could say more about this recent development in terms of the political landscape in Morocco?
The first question, I totally agree with you that the 2011-2019 was not the best period of time or the best democratic, like 10 years. Back then I was maybe arrested once in December 2016, I was detained in October 2017, I was arrested again in March 2017 in between, so I didn't have the best time. However, I wish that some of the mistakes that were made back then did not exist. Like, I really wished that the Constitutional Court was established. This could have probably saved us now from what is going on. I'm not going to say that what happened during that time did pave the way to the coup of Qais Said, but I would say some mistakes were like brutal and somehow contributed to like paving the way for him to do what he did, unfortunately. However, at least I would say, I wouldn't say this years ago, but I would say it now, looking back and reflecting on it, that at least back then we were able to sit at the table and talk together and talk things out. We had a national dialogue. People somehow governed together, like the last like parties that you'd think would agree worked so hard to agree on things they never agreed on. So So we were working out something. Maybe it was a quasi or an attempt for democracy that we could have developed. But what is going on now, the guy sent tanks to the parliament, literally, dismantled, suspended the parliament, then dissolved it, then suspended the constitution. They wrote a terrible one. He is doing everything that is to make us lose hope. We have a lot of political prisoners. We have journalists, bloggers, activists. There was a crackdown on civil society before Qais Said, to be totally transparent. So there were some attacks. There were issues, but what is happening now is way more dangerous. Back then, dialogue was always an option. I'm convinced now that dialogue at least was there back then. People would sit and talk together. I would speak with people in the Communist Party. People would know that at the end of time we were all Tunisians. Tunisians never looked at each other as enemies, like what is Qais Said promoting now. Literally all his speeches, 90% of his speeches are, it's me who support me and enemies and traitors and bad people that we should punish. There's a whole speech, there's a lot of hate speech that is being laid out there, and I think this is super dangerous. To answer super quickly the second question, I remember when Mohamed Bouazizi set himself on fire in December 2010. That happened on December 17th. I took the bus to Sidi Bouzid the next day. No one back then at all expected a uprising/revolution to happen. People were upset, were tired, but nobody expected a revolutionary momentum. I would hope to say the same now. I think that revolutionary momentum might strike or spark at the last time we would expect it to happen. The situation is unfortunately really bad. We have a political scene that is that has totally disappeared, was killed by the regime. Our freedoms are shrinking. Our margin of liberties is being destroyed. However, I would say I have faith, at least in the new generation that is very aware, that is very knowledgeable, that a lot of people who never lived under dictatorship of Ben Ali. So now when they see dictatorship being built, I don't think they like that. I don't think they'll accept it. The situation of the opposition is not at its best, since a lot of its leaders are in prison, and they need a lot of discussions and conversations to agree again and work together. But I have at least always hope in the new generation that is probably more used to living and calling for democracy than accepting and conceding to a classic dictatorship. Thank you.
Thank you. So please join me in thanking our panelists for bringing us examples from Sri Lanka, Jordan, Tunisia, and Morocco. And we'll go right into the next panel. Should I call Salam Ariati, who's the